I, 34M, think my wife, 32F, has been lying to me for months, and I don't know what's real anymore. Okay, I've been lurking here for years but never thought I'd be the one posting. And honestly, I still don't fully believe I'm writing this. My wife and I have been together for 9 years, married for 5. Up until recently, I would have told anyone we were solid. Not perfect, but stable. We had routines, inside jokes, shared plans. We talked about buying a bigger place next year. Kids were on the table. But over the last few months, something shifted. At first it was small things. She'd snap at me over nothing, get weirdly defensive if I asked simple questions like, "What time will you be home?" or "Who were you out with?" And yeah, I know how that sounds. I told myself I was overthinking it. But then the lies started. Small, pointless lies. The kind that don't even make sense. Like saying she was at work, when her coworker later mentioned she'd taken the day off. Or telling me she was out with her friend Anna, except Anna posted a story that night from a different city. I tried to brush it off at first. People forget things, right? Mix up details. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband. But deep down, something felt off. And the worst part? She started acting like I was the problem. I remember the first time she flipped it on me so hard that I actually apologized. It was a Tuesday night. Nothing special. I texted her around 7 asking if she was on her way home. She replied, "Still at the office, lots to finish." Normal enough. But then, maybe 20 minutes later, I opened Instagram and saw a tagged photo. Not even from her, from some guy I didn't recognize. She was in the background. Dim lighting, drinks on the table. Definitely not an office. I stared at it for a solid minute, trying to convince myself I was misinterpreting it. When she got home, I tried to keep it casual. "Hey, long day?" I asked. She sighed dramatically, dropped her bag, and went, "You have no idea. I'm exhausted." And something in me just clicked. So I asked, carefully, "Were you at the office the whole time?" She froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. Then instantly, she rolled her eyes. "Seriously? You're doing this now?" I told her about the photo. Showed it to her. And instead of explaining, or even just admitting she went out after work, she got angry. Like, disproportionately angry. "That's from last week," she snapped. "God, you're so paranoid lately. It's honestly exhausting." I said the timestamp showed it was posted 30 minutes ago. She didn't even look at it again. Just crossed her arms and said, "You're seriously tracking my every move now? What's wrong with you?" And I swear, I started doubting myself. I actually said, "Maybe I'm just tired. Sorry. Sorry. For catching her in a lie." That was the moment things started to mess with my head in a way I can't fully explain. After that night, I started noticing everything. Not in a paranoid, checking her phone every second way, at least, that's what I told myself, but like, once you see one crack, suddenly the whole wall doesn't look so solid anymore. Her schedule stopped making sense. She'd say she had late meetings, but couldn't tell me what they were about. She started guarding her phone like it was some kind of classified document, screen always turned away, notifications silenced, taking it with her even to the bathroom. And the tone, that's what really got me. She used to be warm, even when we argued. Now it was like talking to someone who was constantly irritated by my existence. One night I asked, "Hey, do you want to watch something together?" Just a normal question. She snapped, "Why do you always need attention? Can you just let me breathe for once?" That hit harder than I expected. Because I wasn't being clingy. At least I don't think I was. I was just trying to hold on to what we used to have. Then came another weird moment. She told me she had a team dinner on Friday. Said it was mandatory, big client, whole department would be there. Cool. Fine. Except later that night, I got a random message from her coworker, a guy I barely talked to, asking if everything was okay between us. I was confused and asked why he'd even ask that. His reply? Because she told everyone you two were taking a break. My stomach dropped. A break? We had never talked about taking a break. Not even once. And suddenly I realized, she wasn't just lying to me. She was rewriting our relationship to other people too. That message messed me up more than I expected. Because lying about where you are is one thing. But telling people we're on a break when we're literally sleeping in the same bed every night? That's not just a slip. That's intentional. I didn't confront her right away. Honestly, I was scared of how she'd twist it again. Instead, I started paying closer attention. Quietly. The next few days felt surreal. Like I was living with someone I knew intimately, and also didn't know at all. Then Saturday happened. She said she was going to visit her sister for the afternoon. Totally normal, they're close. She left around noon, gave me a quick kiss, acted completely casual. About 2 hours later, I got a call from her sister. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to answer. She sounded confused. Hey, is my wife with you? My chest tightened. I said no. She told me she was coming over. Her sister paused. That's weird, we don't have any plans today. I felt that cold, sinking feeling in my stomach again. I thanked her, hung up, and just sat there staring at the wall. At that point, I think part of me already knew what was going on. I just didn't have the proof yet. So for the first time in our entire relationship, I did something I never thought I would. I checked her location. We share it for convenience, mostly for safety, never had any issues before. She wasn't anywhere near her sister's place. She was across town. At a place I didn't recognize. And without really thinking it through, I grabbed my keys and left. The drive over there felt unreal. I don't even remember half of it, just gripping the steering wheel way too tight, replaying every weird moment from the past few months in my head like some messed up highlight reel. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Something reasonable. Something that wasn't what it looked like. But deep down, I think I already knew. The location led me to a small apartment complex. Not sketchy, not fancy. Just normal. Which somehow made it worse. I parked a little down the street because I didn't want her to see my car. My heart was pounding so hard it actually hurt. I checked her location again. Still there. Same building. Same unit. I sat in the car for a minute, arguing with myself. Don't do this. You're overreacting. You're going to look insane. But then I remembered. The lies. The break. The way she looked at me like I was a problem instead of her partner. So I got out. I walked up to the building, found the unit number, and just stood there. I could hear faint music from inside. Laughter. Her laugh. I froze. Because that laugh? I hadn't heard it like that in months. Not with me. And that's when something in me shifted from anxiety to something colder. I knocked. The music stopped almost immediately after I knocked. Like, instantly. That alone told me everything I didn't want to know. I stood there, heart hammering, staring at the door. For a second, no one moved. Then I heard shuffling. Whispering. Her voice. Low, rushed. Wait, just, don't. Then silence again. I knocked a second time, louder. Footsteps approached. The door opened just a crack. And there she was. My wife. Her face went completely blank when she saw me. Not shocked in a loud, dramatic way, more like everything inside her just shut down. "What are you doing here?" she asked. No, hey. No confusion. Just immediate defense. I didn't answer right away. I just looked past her shoulder. And that's when I saw him. Some guy standing in the living room, frozen mid-step, like he didn't know whether to come forward or disappear. Late 30s maybe. Casual clothes. Way too comfortable for someone who's just a friend. I looked back at her. "You told me you were at your sister's." She exhaled sharply, already annoyed. "Are you seriously tracking me now?" There it was again. No denial. No explanation. Just flipping it on me. "I called your sister," I said. My voice sounded weirdly calm, even to me. "She hasn't seen you." That's when her expression changed. Not guilt. Calculation. She opened the door a bit wider and stepped outside, pulling it mostly shut behind her like she was trying to physically block me from the truth I was already staring at. "It's not what you think," she said quickly. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "Then what is it?" She ran a hand through her hair, irritated. "He's just a friend. I didn't tell you because you've been acting weird lately and I didn't want to deal with another interrogation." A friend. In a random apartment. While telling everyone we're on a break. Something inside me snapped a little. "Why are you telling people we are on a break?" I asked. And for the first time since I got there. She didn't have an immediate answer. That pause? It said more than anything she could have come up with. She looked away first. And I knew. Still, she tried. She crossed her arms, leaned back against the door like she was bored of the whole situation. "I didn't tell people that, you're exaggerating." I just stared at her. "Your coworker literally asked me if we're okay because you told everyone we're on a break." She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes. Oh my God, I might have said something like that in passing. People read into things. Something like that. At this point my chest felt tight, but my head was weirdly clear. "Are you sleeping with him?" I asked it straight. No build-up. For a split second, I saw it, panic. Just a flash. Then it was gone. What? No. Jesus, you're unbelievable. Too fast. Too sharp. I glanced at the door behind her. "Then let me come in." Immediate reaction. No. Not even a second of hesitation. "Why not?" I asked quietly. "Because you're acting insane," she snapped. "You show up unannounced, accuse me of things, and now you want to barge in? This is exactly why I didn't tell you anything." I took a step back, just looking at her. Because suddenly it all lined up. The lies weren't random. They were strategic. She wasn't slipping up, she was managing two versions of reality. One where we were still married, and one where we were already over. And I was the only one who didn't know which version I was living in. I shook my head slowly. "You know what's crazy?" I said. "I think you've been lying so much, you actually expect me to believe this." She didn't respond. And from inside the apartment, I heard movement again. That movement inside the apartment broke whatever thin layer of control I still had. I looked past her again, this time more deliberately. "Move," I said. She didn't. Instead, she stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was trying to contain the situation. "Don't make a scene." A scene. That word hit me harder than it should have. You're in another guy's apartment, lying to me, lying to everyone else, and I'm the one making a scene? Her jaw tightened. You don't understand the full situation. Then explain it, I shot back. Another pause. Another calculation. Then she tried a different angle. We've been drifting apart for months, she said, softer now, like she was rewriting the narrative in real time. You've been distant. I've been unhappy. I didn't know how to tell you. I just stared at her. Because that wasn't true. Not even close. I'd been trying. Initiating conversations, asking what was wrong, suggesting we spend more time together. And every time, she brushed me off or made it seem like I was overthinking it. Now suddenly, it was mutual distance. That's not what happened, I said quietly. She shrugged. That's how it felt to me. And there it was again, twisting reality just enough to make herself the victim. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Are you with him? I asked again. Yes or no? This time, she didn't answer right away. Her eyes flicked toward the door. And that was answer enough. I felt something in my chest drop. Not explode. Not shatter. Just drop. Like whatever hope I had left finally gave up. Okay, I said. Just that. Okay. And I turned around and walked away. I heard her call my name behind me, but not urgently. Not desperately. Just annoyed. Like this whole thing was inconvenient for her. I don't remember getting back into my car. I don't remember starting it either. I just remember sitting there, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead while everything slowly caught up to me. It's weird. I always thought if something like this happened, I'd explode. Yell, break something, demand answers. But instead, I just felt empty. Like my brain hit some kind of emergency shutdown. After a few minutes, my phone buzzed. Her name. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Finally, a text. Can you not overreact? We need to talk like adults. I actually laughed out loud at that. Overreact. Right. I didn't reply. Another message came in almost immediately. You showing up like that was completely out of line. I stared at the screen, trying to process how she'd managed to flip this so fast. Then. If you had just trusted me, none of this would have escalated. That one got to me. Because for months, I had trusted her. I ignored my gut, explained away the lies, blamed myself for even questioning things. And now somehow, it was still my fault. I finally put the phone face down and leaned back in the seat. And that's when it hit me. Not the anger. Not yet. The realization. She wasn't sorry. Not for lying. Not for being there. Not even for getting caught. She was only upset that her version of reality had just fallen apart. And I was no longer playing along with it. I didn't go home right away. I drove around for a while with no real destination, just trying to think without actually thinking, if that makes sense. Every time my mind started putting the pieces together, I'd instinctively push it away. But eventually, there's nowhere left to run from it. So I parked and just sat there. And that's when the anger finally showed up. Not explosive. Not dramatic. Just this slow, heavy burn. I started replaying everything, but this time, through a different lens. All the times she made me feel like I was too much. All the times she snapped at me for asking basic questions. All the times she told me I was paranoid, insecure, exhausting. That wasn't frustration. That was strategy. If she could make me doubt myself, she didn't have to explain anything. And the worst part? It worked. 4 months. I grabbed my phone again and scrolled through our messages. It was all there if you looked at it honestly. Me trying to connect. Her giving short, cold replies. Me apologizing. Her accepting it like that was the natural order of things. At one point, I actually whispered, "What the hell happened to us?" But I think I already knew the answer. It didn't happen suddenly. It shifted slowly, while I was busy trying to fix something she had already mentally checked out of. My phone buzzed again. Another text from her. "Are you coming home or are you going to keep being dramatic?" That word again. Dramatic. I stared at it for a long time. And for the first time all night, I felt something close to clarity. Clarity didn't feel good. It didn't feel empowering either. It just felt final. I sat there staring at her last message, and something in me quietly shifted from, "How do I fix this?" to, "There's nothing left to fix here." I typed a reply, deleted it, typed again. Finally I just wrote, "I'm not coming home tonight." 3 dots immediately appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Her response came fast after that. "So you're just going to disappear and punish me now?" I actually closed my eyes for a second. Punish her. That framing was almost impressive in how cleanly it erased everything that had just happened. I didn't respond. Another message came in almost immediately. "You're embarrassing me in front of him." That one made me pause. Not because I felt guilty, but because it confirmed something I didn't want to fully accept yet. She wasn't even focused on me as a person in that moment. It was image. Control. Narrative. Me showing up disrupted that. Then another message. "If you had just communicated like a normal person, none of this would have happened." I looked at that sentence for a long time. Because I had communicated. I asked questions. I checked in. I tried to understand her changes. What I didn't do was accept lies as answers. I turned my phone off. Just like that. And the silence that followed was the first peaceful thing I'd felt in months. I sat in the car a while longer, then eventually booked a cheap hotel nearby. Nothing fancy. I didn't want comfort, I just wanted space where I wasn't constantly reacting to her version of reality. That night I barely slept. Not because I was crying or spiraling. Because my brain was finally, painfully reorganizing everything I thought I knew. I woke up before sunrise, still in the same clothes, with that weird hotel room silence pressing in from every direction. For a moment, I forgot everything. Just that half-second of normality where your brain hasn't caught up yet. Then it all came back. And it didn't feel like a fresh wound anymore. It felt like an injury I'd finally stopped bleeding from, still painful, but no longer shocking. My phone was on when I turned it back on. 30-something missed calls. Dozens of texts. And one voicemail. I didn't listen to it right away. Instead, I opened the messages. They had changed tone overnight. "You need to come home and talk to me. This is getting out of control. You're really going to throw away 9 years like this? Please don't do this over one misunderstanding." One misunderstanding. I stared at that line for a while. Then I finally played the voicemail. Her voice sounded different. Less sharp. More controlled, like she was trying to perform calm. "You embarrassed me," she said. "And now you're punishing me by ignoring me. I don't know why you're acting like this, but you're blowing everything out of proportion." A pause. Then softer. "You know I love you. We just need to reset this conversation." Reset. Like none of it had happened. Like reality was something she could restart with the right wording. I sat there holding the phone, realizing something that made my stomach tighten again. She wasn't trying to fix the relationship. She was trying to fix the version of events where she wasn't accountable. And I wasn't sure anymore if those were the same thing in her mind. I spent most of that morning just sitting in the hotel room, watching the light change through the curtains. At some point I showered, not because I felt better, but because I needed to do something that felt normal. Anything. When I got out, I had a new message from her. This one wasn't angry. It was different. I came back home. We need to talk face to face. I'm not doing this over text. I froze for a second reading it. Because that meant she had left that apartment. Gone back. Reset the environment like nothing happened there too. Like she could just move pieces around and make the board look clean again. A few minutes later, another text came in. I know you're hurt, but you're not thinking clearly right now. That one hit something in me, not because it was true, but because it was familiar. That used to be her go-to line whenever I disagreed with her version of things. Slowly, it had trained me to second-guess myself. I sat on the edge of the bed and actually said out loud, "What am I not thinking clearly about?" Because from where I stood, everything felt painfully clear. She lied about where she was. She lied about who she was with. She told other people we were on a break. She denied it until she couldn't anymore. And even then, she reframed it. But her message kept insisting the problem was my perception. A few hours later, I decided I would go back, not because I was ready to fix things, but because I needed answers she couldn't text her way out of. As I drove, I kept thinking about that apartment door closing. How quickly she shifted from panic to control. And I started to wonder how long she'd been practicing that skill before I ever noticed. By the time I got back to the apartment, my hands weren't shaking anymore. That was probably the scariest part of it all. Not the discovery. Not the confrontation. The calm. She opened the door before I even knocked properly, like she'd been waiting right behind it. And she looked composed. Not guilty. Not broken. Just prepared. Finally, she said, stepping aside. Come in. We're not doing this in the hallway. That alone already felt rehearsed. I walked in, and everything looked normal. Too normal. Clean living room, lights on, nothing out of place. Like the last 24 to 48 hours were just deleted. She closed the door behind me. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she sighed like she was the exhausted one. I'm not going to argue anymore, she said. This has gotten ridiculous. I just looked at her. No, I said quietly. What happened in that apartment? Her expression tightened immediately. I already told you. Nothing happened. That word again. Nothing. Like I imagined the entire sequence of events. Like I hallucinated the door opening, the man inside, her refusing to let me in. I stepped closer. So why lie about your sister? She exhaled sharply. Because I didn't want you showing up like you did. And clearly I was right. A pause. Then she added. You've been unstable about this for a while. That word landed differently now. Not like an observation. Like a weapon. I felt something in me shift again, not anger this time, not sadness. Distance. I asked one more question. Are you in a relationship with him? She hesitated. Just long enough. Then. I'm not answering that. And that was the answer. Not yes. Not no. Just refusal. A controlled exit from truth. I nodded slowly, like I was absorbing it, and for the first time since this started. I stopped trying to get her to admit anything. The room felt different after that moment. Not physically, same walls, same light, but like something in me had finally stopped reaching for her version of things. She was still talking, but I wasn't fully processing it anymore. I think you should stay somewhere else for a bit, she said, like she was proposing a practical solution. We're both emotional right now. We're both emotional. As if we were equally off balance in this situation. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said. She looked relieved for a split second, like she thought that meant compliance, not conclusion. Then I added. I'm going to leave. That made her pause. Temporarily, she asked. I shook my head. No. Silence. For the first time, she didn't have a quick response ready. No, I said quietly. What happened in that apartment? Her expression tightened immediately. I already told you. Nothing happened. That word again. Nothing. Like I imagined the entire sequence of events. Like I hallucinated the door opening, the man inside, her refusing to let me in. I stepped closer. So why lie about your sister? She exhaled sharply. Because I didn't want you showing up like you did. And clearly I was right. A pause. Then she added. You've been unstable about this for a while. That word landed differently now. Not like an observation. Like a weapon. I felt something in me shift again, not anger this time, not sadness. Distance. I asked one more question. Are you in a relationship with him? She hesitated. Just long enough. Then. I'm not answering that. And that was the answer. Not yes. Not no. Just refusal. A controlled exit from truth. I nodded slowly, like I was absorbing it, and for the first time since this started. I stopped trying to get her to admit anything. I didn't know what came next. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't trying to live inside someone else's version of my life. End.